Just wondering how everyone is approaching open houses with the new buyer's contracts. My broker was talking about getting everyone to sign a contract to view the home. Sounds like a nightmare to me. And so they're just like basically looking for advice.
Yeah, so the best answer for everyone is get with your broker. And what I'm about to say is California specific.
Mm.
Going forward now to an open house, a buyer or a visitor is going to basically have to sign one of two options. Option one, the agent who's hosting this open house, I am open to having them represent me should I want to buy this house. So that would be like a limited scope buyer broker agreement. It would have to have compensation on there. So that's probably going to take a little bit of a dialogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other option is I, as a buyer or a visitor, know that the agent hosting this open house is here for the benefit of their seller.
Mm-hmm.
I am not represented by them. And anything that I say to this agent could be leveraged against me in negotiation because not only do they not have a fiduciary duty to me, they don't even owe me the right of confidentiality. So anything I tell them, they can take to their seller and try and use it to the seller's benefit to negotiate against me.
Mm-hmm.
So at an open house, they're going to have to sign one of those two options.
Nice.
And,
Love it.
And here's the reality. That agent is right. For a lot of people in the industry, that's going to feel like a burden. New rules require new skills.
Uh-huh.
So as much as you can, if open houses are going to still be a main driver of your business, and I'm a huge advocate of open houses, lean in, do a ton of them right now to build those skills, address those issues that you don't even know that are coming, and really start to understand how to best navigate. So that way, as quickly as possible, you are really astute in still hosting open houses where you're converting great clients and growing your business.
I'm a 22-year-old, joined when I was 19. I'm
Mm-hmm.
married, and my husband has been supporting me financially ever since I joined. I have only had 2 deals in the past year, and I feel terrible. My husband put his life on hold to support me, and I have brought it to, I've brought in too little income. He doesn't say anything about it and tries to motivate me every day, but I know deep down he stresses about our finances. We are young and trying to start our lives, but we can't afford to move out of my parents' house or can't afford to go out to eat. I'm so torn. I want to keep trying. I don't want to give up. I want to make my husband proud, but I'm on the verge of tears because I feel guilty that we're not financially stable because of me. Any advice is greatly appreciated. Have you ever felt like giving up? Did you push through? Should I keep trying?
I'm going to start by saying, what a really great spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very possible that that person is having moments of stress and anxiety and doing their best not to let that cause angst within that agent who's trying to go out there and perform. Look, in life, you're going to be uncomfortable. You can pick your discomfort or it will pick you. I started my real estate career when I was very young. Now, granted, I wasn't married and we didn't have kids. I am so grateful that I did stick it out early on when I didn't have all the other responsibilities like I do now, where we have our own home, we have children. If you're already in a position where you're getting after it in this industry now at that age, my very strong recommendation is stick it out. Stick it out, because just think, if you're going to have this discomfort at some point in your life, if it can be now and you can build a great real estate career, you may be able to pay your spouse back 1,000-fold with them not having to work so many hours or so hard in the near future. So what I would say is you really need to focus on two things as a brand new agent. Number one, the lead indicators and not just the lag indicators. Look, we all see results and success as far as what our income is in real estate. But when you're new, you may not recognize or really have gotten clarity on what it looks like to get to that end result. So you really need to focus on what the lead indicators are that are getting you to those end results and with more consistency.
Yeah.
Meaning, how many calls are you making? How many new conversations are you having? All the things that we know to do to create business or to lead generate, those are the lead indicators that are super important, not only to execute on every day, but to keep focused on. So that way, at the end of a week, at the end of a month, maybe even at the end of a quarter, you can look back and ask yourself, did I do what I was supposed to do? Was I consistent? Am I hitting my goals in my lead indicators? And if the answers are yes, then you need to learn how to celebrate those wins.
Yeah.
Now, as a newer agent, if you're doing those right things consistently, this is where you can go to a coach. This is where you can go to your broker, someone that can guide you. Because now, instead of you coming to them and saying, I tried door knocking, it didn't work, what should I do? Because that's not a good question. A better question is, hey, I've been door knocking for 3 months. This is how many doors I knock. This is the message that I'm giving. These are the objections that I'm getting. In this process, how can you help me develop my skills? That is where an agent can really benefit from guidance and coaching in their broker and start to make little tweaks in their process to start getting better results. But the one thing that no one can do for you is get your tail out there and work. So if you can just work and understand the lead measures, then you're not going to be so distraught when you're not getting the lag measures, which is commission.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's really the first major part of it. The second thing when it comes to being a new agent is really going to be making sure that you are building out a business model that's going to have both now business and future business. So if you can build a business plan that really is going to help you with both opportunities, that's going to help you tremendously. Because let's be honest, as a newer agent, yes, we want to have success. We want to make sure that we're positioning ourselves to learn and, not run out of money. But sometimes we go out there and focus on what feels like the easiest approach to real estate, which is maybe networking. It could be things like farming. And remember, like farming a neighborhood, it's called farming for a reason. You're planting seeds and watching the grass grow. Does grass grow fast? No. Is farming wrong or bad? Absolutely not. Because once that grass is there, or once those seeds have started to develop, it tends to be a really easy type of crop to maintain. But if you're a brand new agent and you're only focused on things that are very long-term in terms of like production, then you may not see yourself through where that actually is going to start developing into business. So make sure that your business plan or your model of real estate allows for business now. Okay. What are some of those things? Well, it could be things like cold calling. It could be things like hosting open houses where you find people who are ready to transact sooner rather than later. But just make sure you have a balance in your business. And then again, give yourself grace. It sounds like your spouse is doing a really great job to support you. If you could get through this hurdle of building your real estate business, and remember, you're not just taking on a job, right? Where it's like, I'm going to work X amount of hours and get paid. You are building a business from scratch. You are everything from the janitor through the CEO. If you can figure this out in your early 20s, imagine what the rest of your life together as, husband and wife or as spouses, and then what it looks like for the rest of your family. Like, I really applaud you for being willing to jump into this much at such an early age, but see yourself through it, because it means the rest of your life's going to be pretty awesome. Now, remember what I said. In life, you will have discomfort. You can choose that discomfort or it will choose you.
Yep. That's a good one. All right. So this next one is titled New Forms / No Showings.
Okay.
Yeah. So 5 leads so far straight up refused to sign new short form required to tour homes.
Mhm.
I wrote it up under showing services, $0 for 2 weeks. And
Interesting.
so,
Okay.
yeah, and then he goes through his conversation with a buyer. My services are complimentary for the first 2 weeks to see if we are a good fit. Then, after this time, if you feel comfortable and confident in moving forward with working with me, we can discuss signing a longer full service agreement. And then he goes to the buyer. No, we didn't have to do this before. And then it
Mhm.
goes back to him. I know it's an extremely new regulation. Here's proof from TREC, NAR, and HAR. I legally cannot show you a home without it. Let me reiterate, by signing this, you are not required to pay me any percentage yet. It's purely a trial. It's purely a trial run, so I can show you the value I can bring to your transaction. And if you don't feel that way after 2 weeks, it simply expires. No harm, no foul. And then it goes to the buyer. No, I don't want to sign anything at all. And then he then just summarizes, I've had 0 showings, objections, not even about the commission split. Just the form itself freaks people out.
Yep.
Yeah, he says, any advice?
I think the main thing to realize is that we're going to have to change consumer behavior.
Mhm.
And this is a very abrupt change, right? Because we've been operating this way for over 100 years. And how buyers tend to engage buying. And Cameron, you're really excellent at this because you always look at, let's create a process around how the buyer wants to buy.
Mhm.
And in the real estate industry, we've had that in America for 100 years. That's why, up until this point, and we'll see what happens hereafter, our real estate market in the United States has been like the, you know, most sought after type of approach to real estate amongst the rest of the world
Mhm.
because it has been so streamlined to the way that the buyer wants to buy. Well, it wasn't our choice as an industry. I don't think it was any agent's choice that we had this big change. But we've had this big change. And now the ways in which that we need to engage buyers to stay within ethics, within what the law is asking us to do, and essentially what the Department of Justice really wants to see from our industry, it means that we're going to have to retrain buyers on how they get to go and look at real estate.
Mhm.
So there is going to be a period of time where there's going to be this difficulty of getting through it. Now, there are going to be some agents, unfortunately, that either because they have their head in the sand, don't know what's going on,
Mhm.
don't care to operate correctly, or see this as an opportunity to take everyone's buyers because they're willing to do it the wrong way.
Mhm.
Don't succumb to that. The quicker our industry embraces these changes, then I think 2 things are going to happen. First, the consumer will understand and they will start to change that behavior. Even if they don't like it, they're going to change it.
Mhm.
Number 2, the level of professionalism and the perceived professionalism of our industry will start to go up. I
Mhm.
do believe that that's an unintended consequence of all of these changes, but I really believe in our industry. I believe in agents. And now that we have to demonstrate our value and essentially have a promise of delivery of performance, it will require us to perform better. And so we're going to have to set those expectations up front with the consumer, and then we're going to have to perform to those new level of expectations. And for that
Yep.
reason, I truly believe that this will raise the bar of professionalism for real estate.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Me too. Um, okay, so this one's a short one. Anything. What are some ideas or things you do to go above and beyond or to promote your value, buy side and list side? And so it
Interesting.
says, yeah, so simple. What are some of your best practices when providing your value or value proposition?
Okay. So I think this is a really important question for every agent to land on because I think what this person's trying to do is really create that separation.
Hmm.
How am I not like everybody else?
Hmm.
That's exactly the question we not only should be asking, but we should be answering for our
Hmm.
buyers and sellers. Okay. So, I'll give you an example. On the sell side, one of the things that I've done for a really long time, this is just one of them to start getting the juices flowing for others. I have always brought to the table when I find that staging is going to be an impact for my seller, not only offer the service, but pay for it. I know the metrics about how that impacts the listing performance. I know that on average, a home will sell for about 10% more than if that same home was not professionally staged. And because I'm paying for it out of my, my own money, essentially, it really positions me to do two things. Number one, demonstrate that I have skin in the game and that I'm willing, because of my ability, to do so and not get compensated or recoup that cost until I close. But it also puts me in a unique position where if a seller really wants what they want and they're unwilling, I can now have a better say in whether or not I'm willing to take that listing.
Yeah.
That's one thing I do on the sell side. On the buy side, I think this is going to be really key for a lot of agents moving forward because, showing homes is not a value. They don't need us to find what's available for sale. So as a buyer's agent, you need to get really clear. What is your value and what is a tangible value? Okay. I'll give you guys a really great example that eXp Realty has for every eXp agent. We have exclusive listings here at eXp Realty. So essentially, any property that's off market or that is coming soon to the market, and we have an exclusion from the listing service signed by the seller. Because it's our own brokerage and we are one brokerage across the world with about 90,000 agents, we can market that property to all of our agents. So what does that mean? When I meet with a buyer, I get to show them a list of properties on my cell phone and say, hey, you see all these properties here? These are all properties that you would be in a position to purchase that you won't find on the MLS. You're not going to find on Zillow. But that's one of the tangible benefits that you get from working with me specifically. That's a tangible benefit. There are others out there. There are other ways to position yourself, but you have to make sure that you're not just saying, I'm really nice. I pick up my phone. Those are standards. And buyers have a hard time figuring out, okay, you're really nice, but what does that benefit to me specifically? How does that help me in the goal of purchasing a home? So you have to figure out what your tangible benefits are or add them to your process and then be really good at communicating.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I like it. Do you have this is just a question for me. Do you have any good practices for learning how to communicate that value?
Yeah, I would say like a couple of things are really key. Number one, role playing is really helpful. Do it with other agents. If you can get another agent to be like, wow, that sounds really great, then you're probably on the right track. Okay. Number two, leverage technology. Go into Chat GPT. Ask Chat to act as, a real estate and sales guru and, put in what your phraseology is and ask it to give you in return, like better ways to explain it to a consumer. Those are some ways to move the ball forward, not only with, efficiency and leveraging chat, but also in what is really going to be key, which is your delivery by role playing. Because chat is just words, right? Now you got to go and role play with somebody. What's your tonality, your pace? How are you showing up physically? That would maybe make someone either feel like it's really effective or not. So you kind of need both.
Yeah. 100%. I like it. That's good stuff. All right. So this one's about open houses. What are we doing when it's a dead open house? Just hit the market Thursday and the weather sucks, so I'm not exactly panicking just yet. But what are your favorite dead open house activities? I'm currently splitting the time between doing marketing material for my listings and enjoying not having my kids scream at me for snacks. Does anyone have any good routine for when you've got 2 hours of dead time that could be interrupted interrupted at any moment?
It's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
My simple answer is this. Why are we doing open houses?
Mm-hmm. To
Usually it's
yeah,
because you're trying to generate new business, right?
mm-hmm.
It's a lead generation strategy.
Mm-hmm.
If your open house is dead, you probably want to replace it with lead generation.
Mm.
Some of the really great ones that I think are impactful are one of two. Either one, pick up the phone and start calling your sphere of influence.
Mm.
Pick up the phone and start calling maybe some leads that you have, but keep in that lead generation mode. That also tends to keep us on our feet. So that way, when someone does come in 45 minutes later, you're not half asleep trying to wake yourself up and like get back into it. You're already on point.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is helpful if you have open houses where you're hosting it with others, which I tend to recommend, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a lender there or if you have another agent there, then go knock that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You're already there. It's a unique opportunity to go and engage with them. And, you know, it's really easy. I'm the person hosting that open house right over there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then figure out what the rest of your message could be around that. But again, if we're setting up time for an open house, that's lead generation time. That's prospecting time. And I understand it makes sense where you're like, well, I'm sitting here, I've got my computer. Let's start pumping out marketing materials. But now you're taking away time from lead generation. If you've already dedicated that time and you are showing up, get after lead generation is my recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff. So this one's titled, Why Do People Want Me to Meet with Them if they aren't even sure of selling or are a year or so out? I recently went on a listing appointment where the clients aren't looking to sell until next spring. They called me based on my email marketing and they wanted to talk about prices and commissions. It seems odd since the market can change so much in a year. Why do you think people do this? I personally wouldn't do that to someone, especially knowing they get paid on commission. I feel like these people think we make enough money and that I should be honored to get an opportunity and lack empathy. How do you deal with these people? Is it just part of the business or is there something else going on? Looking forward to your insights.
Two things on this one. Number one, whatever that person's doing, because you mentioned, you know, like the channel in which they found him, it's working really well. So congratulations.
Yeah.
The second thing that I would say is, I think that if you just reframe your filter and how you're hearing this, you might see it dramatically different. I love when I get to work with a buyer or seller well before their process begins. This and the goal here is, number one, go and demonstrate your value, but really start to entrench yourself in their process moving forward. That's how you eliminate all the competition. What do I mean by that? I mean, this agent even nailed it. Everything changes in a year. Awesome. Go and help them understand that. But more importantly, go and be the person who's going to help them see those trends so that they can watch the market with you. Now you're a part of their process.
Yeah.
Remember, buyers and sellers, especially sellers, if they say they're selling in 6 months, it's likely on the market in 3 to 4. So if they're telling you it's a year, they might be transacting in the next 6 months from now. Yeah, that's just a rule of habit. I know there's a lot of agents out there that are like, I talked to someone, they said they're going to sell, you know, in the summer, and then I see they listed their home in early April. And I didn't follow up because I thought I'd just give them a call like, you know, end of May. People tend to set that expectation a little bit further out with you, the agent. In their minds, they may be thinking, I'll probably do it a little bit sooner, but I don't want to get pressured. So I'm going to tell them longer. But I think if you really look at that request in a different fashion and then set up your approach not to close a listing now because it's not ready to be listed yet, but instead make it where you can add value, infuse yourself in their process, you become their agent. That's just the way that you can start moving forward with those opportunities. And again, those are my favorite.
Yeah, that's, dude, I was like, I thought that same thing where I was like, Well, your marketing's working. So
Yeah, your marketing's working. Your
yeah.
marketing's working, and then and so that's a great thing. Like just acknowledge that. Like, wow, whatever channel that is, like double down because it's
Hmm.
working.
Hmm.
But the second thing is like, just recognize, and this is true for everybody. I know people who, have won the lottery and they're pissed off. I know people who have been given so many things and they're mad. And I've seen people who have lost everything and they're full of joy. At some point, it just might be a reframing of how we're taking this in, and I get it. The concern is likely like, well, unless you're ready to do something, why are you asking me to meet with you? Because usually agents think I'm going to show up, I'm going to do my thing, and I'm walking out of there with a contract or not. Like that's just what we're doing. But if you can figure out a way to engage with people like that over a longer period of time, I get it. It doesn't mean a paycheck today. But if that marketing channel keeps creating these opportunities, what happens in 6 months from now, a year from now, a year and a half from now? You're going to be that agent that others look at and they go, this person's so lucky. Like people just called them and like a year ago, they said they're going to list with them. And now it's a year later, but they don't see the work. So just know, like, if you pace this correctly, it's a really an awesome value to your business model.
Yeah. I tried to take this is a very long one. It's called Bombed Listing Appointment today.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's literally like 6 paragraphs. And so I took it, put it in a chat GPT, and I told it like basically our scenario. And
Yeah.
so it gave it to you in bullet point form.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we're gonna see if this works. And so, okay, so bombed listing appointment today, seeking advice. So here's a situation. A seller contacted the real estate agent about purchasing a cabin and mentioned potentially selling their house.
Mhm.
Although they initially wanted to try selling it on their own, they later asked the real estate agent to list it.
Okay.
The house, while in a great location, was cluttered and needed some minor touch-ups. I
Mhm.
suggested decluttering for better photos, but the
Mhm.
seller became overwhelmed and decided to delay the listing,
Okay.
apologizing for wasting the real estate agent's time.
Okay.
I later sent a follow-up email reassuring the seller that we could show the house as is, but I'm concerned that I may have come across too pushy. The real estate agent has come across too pushy. The real estate agent also, so speaking as a real estate agent, I also worry that if we photograph the house in its current state, it could reflect poorly on both the seller and the real estate agent. And so, given this experience, how would you have handled this situation? Should I have approached it differently, or do you think the seller was simply dealing with personal issues that made them anxious about the process?
Yes
Mm.
is the answer. Yeah. Likely what they ended with, and it could have been maybe a different approach to it. So I'm
Mm.
assuming they didn't get a listing signed, right? Which
Mhm.
to me speaks to know your sales process. At the end of the day, we are salespeople. And I
Mhm.
know some people take that and they hear that and it sounds weird and bad, but listen, people hire me to go from point A to point B.
Mhm.
Human beings can be really convoluted in a lot of ways. We are complicated. We know what we want, but we don't know how to get there. That's why we hire professionals as
Mhm.
leaders. Like, hey, I'm here, and if I didn't need you, then I'd be here. But I'm here, and I want to get here. So if you can enter the picture and go, okay, I know how to get you from here to here. This is what you want, right? Yes. Okay, great. Let's go get you there. We need to demonstrate that level of leadership, but we also need to understand that sometimes it takes our salesmanship to get them there. All
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
What I mean is, specifically in this scenario, I would have not gotten into the nuance of prepping the home on that level
Mhm.
until I had a signed listing agreement.
Mhm.
Sign the listing agreement. Believe me, buyers and sellers, something happens psychologically when they put pen to paper on that bottom line. That's a commitment for even themselves as far as, okay, I'm doing this thing. Once the commitment is made, and I mean minutes later, or it could be a day later, Once the commitment is made, now it's like, all right, now we can pivot and start moving forward on what we need to do to get there.
Mhm.
So get the listing signed, then get into the nitty gritty. I will also tell you, one of the things that I love doing is I have a professional stager that I work with. She's amazing.
Mhm.
Part of the reason I love working with her is one, it's a massive value to my clients. Number two, when there are tough conversations to be had, I mean, granted, think about it. We've already had to go through pricing, compensation, all the things that we're going to do for them. At some point, let well enough be alone as far as you having to sell yourself.
Mhm.
What I like to do is I let my stager come in and consult with my seller and let that person be the one to start going through the
Mhm.
things that need to be done. Okay. Sometimes I will let my stager know in advance, hey, I've been there. Here are some of the things I'm concerned about. Just FYI, these are some of the things I would like to see addressed. And I allow the stager to help in that process. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
This way, when you come and reaffirm what direction you're trying to go, now they're hearing it from multiple people, but they're probably feeling more supported. It's
Yeah.
not just, okay, you want me to empty my house? Like that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
If you can support them with other professionals that can give them guidance and support doing it,
Mhm.
like more resources, it may not feel like such an overwhelm.
Yeah. He or she said that they got on the phone with the
Uh-huh.
seller, and the seller already, like, from what they said, is like the seller, it seems like the seller was like, oh yeah, come out and list the property, because she actually said that, hey, I'm choosing you, come out and list
Yeah,
it. And so
love
he
it.
said so the agent said that they got their photographer, and then they went to the listing presentation with their photographer.
Mm,
And that's where everything happened. The seller got a little overwhelmed and was like, whoa, what's going on?
okay. No, this
Mhm.
is great. Okay. So
Mhm.
yes, now this sounds to me like a process issue. Okay.
Mhm.
Again, as leaders,
Mhm.
we need to know that sales is not a moment, it is a process.
Mhm.
And if you can understand that for yourself and develop your own process, you're going to have a ton of success, even if you screw things up all along the way, because the process is there to support you instead of just one moment you're hanging your hat on.
Mhm.
I would never go to a house to list with a photographer with me,
Mhm.
ever,
Mhm.
because that is way too much potential backtracking. Now,
Mhm.
granted, as you guys can tell, my listing process includes a stager, if nothing else, at least her consultation.
Mhm.
So my process doesn't allow for a stager to show up day one and take photos anyway.
Mhm.
Granted, there might be times when that's possible, but usually the first time I show up, if someone calls me and says, I'm having you over to list my home, I'm going there. We're going to meet really quick. And this is different than my other process. We're sitting down and we're signing the listing agreement.
Mhm.
Usually, when I meet a seller to do a listing presentation, I go and meet with them. We walk through the home first before we sit down and we get into the nitty gritty. But if
Mhm.
someone said, you've already won the job, the first thing I'm going to do is go secure the job.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get to work. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So think about that as a process. But yes, I think that um, there's a process issue there.
Mhm.
You don't know what you're going to expect. You know, everyone knows is selling real estate. We see everything. Make sure that you're prime prepped and ready, that when a videographer and photographer shows up, that home is dialed in and ready to go. It should be way more celebratory. By the way, I call it a photo shoot because I want my seller to feel enamored by the idea of,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, my home's going to have a photo shoot.
Mhm.
If you think about it in that way, you're not going to tee a seller up to have a photo shoot and their home looks like a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. This is the last one. So it's a real simple one. It
Oh,
says,
usually the hard ones are simple.
yeah. Oh, yeah. This may be hard. Um, so it says, what things have you learned the hard way and you wish you knew earlier?
Ooh, I love that.
Mhm.
Okay. So I worked for a personal development company before selling real estate. And I was mentored by someone that is still like a mentor to me to this day. And back then, he was trying to help me understand that results, in his experience, come from three things: our intentions, our state, and our actions. Okay. And it's almost like a multiplication problem. Our intentions, time our state, time our actions equal our results in life, in whatever you're trying to pursue. Meaning, like, if you don't have any clarity of what you're trying to accomplish, like the intention is so unclear or not even important, it probably won't lead to very big results. If your vision is really clear, but you show up pissed off, you show up really full of anxiety or fear, your state doing whatever you're doing is not good, that could have a pretty dramatic impact on your results. And then your actions are your actions. What I failed to understand in that teaching early on is that actions need to be a standard. They need to be a non-negotiable, and they need to be absolutely consistent. So let's apply that to real estate. For most people, this means when they think of lead generation, right? Well, what is your intention behind lead generation? Well, I want a deal. Is that really clear? Let's really put some emphasis on what is our real intention for generating business. And once we get that clear, really clear, and hopefully that goal should be one that motivates you or really drives you to want to grow. Okay. Remember, intentions are not quotas. So if you aim for 100 deals and you do 50, but every other year prior to that, you've only done 30, that was a great goal. It did its job. It was to help you grow. Okay.
Yep.
The second, our state of being in terms of like our physical state, our mental state, our emotional state. Put emphasis on trying to get those as healthy as possible. All right. So that way when you show up energetically dialed in. But the last one is our actions. If we don't have that consistently working, then the other two, although of the most important when it comes to leverage, like changing results, if you're not doing the action and it's a multiplication problem, anything times zero is zero.
Yeah.
So we have the thing that I learned the hard way is you have to get in there and just be consistent with doing the right things. The other thing that I learned the hard way is how to set up a calendar. So for me, I really focus on, what are the 3 things or 4 things that I need to do every day, that as long as if I just do them, even if I didn't do them great, but if I just did them over a month or over a year, it's going to change my life. So I'll give you an example. Cold calling. If I just cold call 5 for sale by owners or expireds every day, right? To start. If I just did that every single day, now some agents are going to say, oh, I heard that, and you should be cold calling for 4 hours a day. Great, that's fine. But what if someone's just starting? Like, relax, hear me out. If you just did that 5 every single day, will you likely convert 8 appointments this week? Probably not. But is it building that muscle memory? And over time, is it putting you in a position? Yes. See, what a lot of agents do wrong is they go, okay, I'm going to cold call. So day 1, they cold call for 4 hours and they never do it again. Is one session going to change your life? Heck no. But if you just call 5 for the next year, will that change your life? I guarantee you it will, in a lot of ways. 1, if you do it consistently enough, your skills are going to get better. 2, it's not going to be something scary anymore. Because for a lot of people, cold calling or door knocking or whatever it is, it's this big thing that's frightening them. But if you just do it every single day, it's like brushing your teeth. Are you afraid of that? No, it's just what I do. I don't even have a thought around it anymore. You want to get to the point where the things that change your life are as mundane, as constant, and as uneventful as far as like your emotion around it as brushing your teeth. When you can do that with the right activities, then you can come back to what's my intention around it, even clearer. What is my state around it? Well, I'm pretty indifferent. Cool. Can you make it fun? Can you make it exciting? Because if you ever look at something that's called a state chart, and what it does is it kind of signifies like different human emotions and how they vibrate. Okay, because emotions vibrate and it can be measured now. Okay, this is science. This is not, anything weird. This is literal science. When you look at a state chart and how they vibrate, fear, anxiety, those are lower vibrating emotional states. And when they're lower like that, what they tend to do is they cause people to retract from them, meaning you don't want to do that. Okay. If you can get to the point where by just constantly doing that thing that you're either afraid of, or have anxiety around, but you just keep doing it because that's what you do every day and it becomes as mundane as brushing your teeth, what you're doing is you're changing your emotional state around it to neutrality. So now I just do it. I don't even have a thought around it. But the difference between fear or shame or anxiety to neutrality is massive. But what if you could take neutrality up a notch to joy, peace, serenity, excitement? That's where you can even dial it up further. But for foundational purposes, if you can fill your calendar so that you're doing the right things every day to the point where even the things that are scary become as boring and normal to you as brushing your teeth, that's as simple as life has to be. Don't overcome.